Hello, it's Paul Green with another one of our Focus On panels. We try and do these each Tuesday at 11. We've had a few technical difficulties this morning. We're hoping that Serena will join us. We shall see. So she may pop up on screen, and then Mari will be leaving us in about 10 minutes or so. But here's Serena now. Let's see if we can get her on board.
Yes.
Hi,
Hello.
Serena.
I'm just joining on my phone because for some reason my computer wouldn't allow me to join. Hello, good morning.
Okay, we've dived in live, so welcome to the panel. So I'm going to go around the room first of all and just let you guys introduce yourselves and let people know who you are and what you do. So I'll start in the order that you arrived. So Mari, who are you and what do you do?
Hi, I'm Mari from Tom Mum Team Coaching. I'm a team performance coach. I work with growing small businesses to develop their leadership team and their leadership skills. So yeah, I'm very pleased to be here. Unfortunately, I can't be here for very long today, so I'm looking forward to the early bit of the discussion and hopefully I'll catch the rest when I get back.
We'll make the most of you while you're here, I'm sure. Helen, do you want to say who you are and what you do?
Yes, I'm Helen Heather. I am a mental health business consultant, which means I work with businesses to help them support mental health. And I'm also a qualified counsellor and I see clients in private practice as well.
Excellent. Judith?
Hi, I'm a clinical teacher and many other things. I work mainly focusing on anxiety. That's me.
Okay, thank you very much. And Serena?
Good morning. So I'm Serena. I'm the founder of Breakthrough Public Speaking, and I help business owners speak with confidence on camera for videos, webinars, or online courses.
Okay, so the intention of these sessions is just to have an open discussion on a particular topic. Today we're going to be looking at mental health awareness, in particular how it relates to business owners and maybe employees within businesses. So if you're tuning into this live, then if you want to put a question or a comment, wherever you may be, we can bring that up on the screen and address it for you. If you're watching this on a replay, then you can still put comments in there and we can find you and respond to whatever your comment or question is. So I'll start off with you, Mari, because we've only got you for a short time. So I guess in the nature of what you're doing, you're working with teams and obviously getting stuck in as a coach in terms of working with them. Does mental health come into it? Is that something that you would spot in the nature of your work, and what sort of things would you do to deal with that situation?
Well, that's an enormous question.
Yeah, well, I've only got you for 10 minutes, so I'm going to make the most of it.
You've only got me for 7 now. Okay, so I mean, yes, obviously there are issues that come up. There are 2 that come immediately to mind. One is burnout and stress, and overwork. That can be when you're going through a team coaching program, or if even if I'm coaching one-to-one, these are sometimes the things that you can see evidence of that. And there are various techniques and things that I can do to help people. However, if I feel that it's beyond my capabilities, then I have a bank of referrals, people that I can refer them to who may be able to help them further. I also, from a team perspective, one of the things that we work on a lot is having this open, transparent communication. And I know that when you speak to particularly Helen, because we've already had this conversation, but one of the biggest problems people have in leadership is they're a bit frightened to talk about things with people, and that actually makes things worse all round. It makes it worse for the leader because they have some anxiety about what's the correct thing to say, what they shouldn't say, but also for the person who's suffering, they can feel that awkwardness, and they don't know how to express it themselves, and they may not know how to express it themselves, but it just creates a barrier. So some of the work we do is around being able to communicate more openly with people.
Okay. Helen, in terms of the people that you're working with, what are some of the issues that you've seen have cropped up, and is the situation, given the current economic climate and what all of us have been through after the last couple of years, are you seeing an increased I don't know the way to word it. Is it getting worse or better, I guess, is the clumsy way of saying it in terms of people's mental health?
Well, it's in terms of mental health, it's one of those things that is very fluid, and it kind of changes with circumstances, and different circumstances bring different mental health issues. And so COVID brought a lot of mental health issues, and we've got the cost of living crisis as well. There have been clients that I've seen who've been signed off work, long-term sick, and while sometimes the issue can be one that's outside of work, sometimes when you go into work, the way that is managed can have a significant impact on supporting or driving the person out of the workplace.
Yeah. And Judith, you tend to work with individuals rather than businesses, but I guess they've either got their own business or they're employees, I guess. What's been your experience? What have you seen in terms of the last couple of years and how things may have changed, and what issues that you've seen arising?
Okay, yeah, and I have instance where both as a manager and an employee, mental health issues have with the difficulties and managers have in talking to clients. Yes, I see people now on long-term sick leave, like Helen has been caused by the organism. I'm only hearing one side of the story, but what has happened has caused the person to be in. And I've worked with people who've attempted recognition that what they've been suffering from, not a personal character flaw, the real understanding of how to take into the workplace when some of them to improve what's going on. Yes, we'll have a gradual move. Okay, you've only worked 3 days this week. You know that in my book is not gradual. It's much for the employee's personality and the employer's difficulty. It is still or a subject that people are raised because they feel it will reflect that. If they've had a heart attack, everybody's rushing around cards. If you say, I just had breath, so anxious, I can't go to work, that's not true.
Okay, we're getting a little bit delayed and a little bit crackly, so I don't know if there's anything you can do your end. We can just about make out what you're saying. You might want to check your mics all plugged in, right? So, Serena, you're working with, I guess, small business owners and people in the nature of what you do. What's been your experience, and what sort of things have you seen over the last sort of few years?
I think mental health is a massive area, and I think one of the things I see, especially to do with presentations, is there's almost a disconnect with yourself. You feel you have to be someone else when you present, for instance, in my area, and it's almost that people are afraid to talk about it. So I find people say to me, I've never told anyone this, and then they describe some difficulties they've had in their lives, maybe a bad experience they had when speaking in front of others. Or quite a few people actually have speech impediments that I've seen who you wouldn't guess it. You wouldn't guess it, but there's that underlying anxiety. So it's about how to manage that anxiety. So I think often we think we need to present as this incredibly confident person. And one of the first things I say to people when I am giving any kind of talk is I talk about the anxiety disorder I had as a child, that I experienced panic attacks since my early 20s. So I can just get that out there, because often people, when they see someone else who's confident, they think, it's all right for you. You've never had this problem. You can't possibly understand me. And I think it's really fantastic. I think Mari mentioned something about this, communicating, just to talk about this. Because I think one of the things that makes it worse is not talking about it, thinking I should be like this and I'm not. And so there's that lack of sort of acceptance of where you're at. And if we can't accept where we're at, it's really hard to get that support. And of course, it is so very important to get that support, even if that means just having an open conversation with someone who understands. So I think it needs to start with, feeling safe, feeling okay to talk about your experiences with the right people, so that there can be some support and some feeling that things can progress. There are solutions here. There are things that you can do to help with your mental health, and that it doesn't need to have this sort of stigma about it, that there's something wrong with you, because if we're all honest, I think we can all say we've all experienced anxiety and different various emotions, depression from time to time, and that's okay. So I think it's the more you have conversations about it, the more it becomes a bit more normalized in the workplace and amongst small business owners as well.
Yeah. So we'll just squeeze one last drop out of you, Mara, before you go quickly.
Okay.
So do you think that, given what we've all faced over the last sort of like couple of years and the ongoing uncertainty, do you think mental awareness is higher on the agenda now, but both personally with individuals and also in business?
Absolutely, I think so. I don't think everyone's dealing with it particularly well. I think, and I meant from a professional point of view, I don't think staff are necessarily getting the support that they need, or it's being dealt with in the way that you would hope. And that is why certainly in business we do need more support and more understanding. But I definitely think it's become a bigger thing. Sorry, that's a terrible thing to say. There's greater awareness. Come on, Mara, you have better words than this. However, I think that's created some of this fear around how to tackle it in the same way. I had a conversation with a business owner yesterday when it's, can I say this? Can I ask this question? And it's like, well, yes, you can, but you can't. You can't ask it in a leading way. You have to ask it in an open way and allow that person to tell you what they want to tell you. So, but I think it's definitely had a big impact, and particularly across more widely sport and the public, people in the public eye, and I think that's given a lot more exposure to the struggles that people face, and has normalized it, if that's the right word to use, and taken some of the stigma away.
Okay. I've just noticed that we've had some comments in the chat. Yes, thank you, Mark. I think your work is done here. So thank you. I think we got the most out of you in the last 12 minutes. So enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay,
thank you. So Helen, building on what Mari said, is in terms of your experience, and I guess it's why you're looking at approaching business and offering the services that you're offering, is that fear with managers or leaders, doing the wrong thing. So from that point of view, they don't do anything, or what would your view be on that?
Well, I think there has been. I mean, each business is different in how it's run, and there is so much that depends on the approach of leadership and management. But there is so much awareness of mental health, but there hasn't necessarily been the guidance as to how to manage that in terms of taking practical steps. And one of the things Serena said actually that is really, really important is just keeping the lines of communication open, because that is so important. If someone feels that there is a stigma held against mental health issues and they're experiencing things that are having an impact on their mental health, it's going to make it that much more difficult to tell that person about what's going on for them in the workplace. It depends upon the views in the workplace as well, whether there is this perception that personal issues should be left outside the door and work issues are just focused on, because it's not quite that simple. A lot of people cannot cut off their emotions about what's going on outside, just as the same with work having an impact on their personal lives as well. So there does tend to be this fear about potentially making things worse. And I think there is also sometimes a tendency to feel that there is a responsibility to fix things. And actually, that's not necessarily what the role of the manager is, or the leaders in a business. It's about supporting. I mean, there may be things that they can do within a workplace to support their staff, but actually there is a limit to the responsibility that they should be taking on. And I think there is this tendency to feel that they need to fix things and they have to say the right thing that is like a silver bullet, and that's not necessarily the right way to go. So quite often it's about listening and being aware and supporting, and just being there with a listening ear and offering that person any support, asking them what they might need. So more often than not, it's about asking and listening rather than telling and trying to fix.
Yeah. Judith, you were nodding your head there. Let's see if your audio is any better.
Yeah.
So what
I've checked my audio. Can you?
Yep.
Is my audio better? Yeah, absolutely agree with the listening. People come to me, the first piece said, I've not said this to anybody else before. So listened, and then managers, employers were what to do to fix this, but I have to maybe kind of help, or any kind of what's appropriate to them. I think the other, don't forget the big in the current environment as well. So also be having issues. So if you've got employees busy trying to keep their business after their own mental health, then to help employees, or to even want to, it's one they're probably hiding.
Yeah, you're still a little bit intimate, and I think we're just about getting you. So, Serena, you just
Really
building on.
Do then.
Just stand on one leg and face west. You'll be fine. So, Serena, building on what's been said and getting back to giving people, I guess, the space to open up. You sort of like mentioned part of your journey. So do you think, with you sharing what your experience and the anxiety that you suffered from historically, do you think that helps create a space for people to think, well, okay, Serena got through it, she's okay, and I feel comfortable now speaking about it? Is that something you found useful to share your experience?
I do actually, yeah, I really do. And I have a lot of comments about that and positive feedback, because they say, I never would have guessed, especially if I was going to talk or something, like, I never would have guessed. You just seem completely confident, like you've always been like it. But we can think that about everyone that we see. And then that's when we can feel isolated. And I think it's really important to get the truth out there, because I could just do the talk and not mention that bit, but it's not what I want to do. And I do believe it's really important to be authentic within yourself. And that is my journey. 20 years ago, I was suffering really badly from panic attacks, like hyperventilating, and I didn't even know why. And that's a big thing. And I like to share it because I feel it does create an open space for people, and it gives them hope. That's what people have said to me after I've talked. They've said, you know what, if you can do this, then I feel that I could, because you understand this. And that's what I also like to bring into what I'm doing. My coaching, it's about understanding. So I'm not saying, I'm an alien from outer space. I've never had any confidence problems, and I have no clue why you're anxious about public speaking. None at all. I mean, that it just wouldn't resonate with the people that I'm working with. And even if they are, I do get a lot of people who are already confident speakers, but no one's just born completely confident. Even extroverts, even really confident people, there are things that make them feel nervous, including public speaking. So I think getting that out there and being honest with one another is really healthy. And I mean, I remember a time where one of my first jobs was a research assistant at the University of Bournemouth. I was asked to do a presentation, and the professor I was assisting said, you okay with presentations? I said, yeah, fine, because I wanted to be, and I didn't want to admit. And no one talked about being nervous, so I didn't want to be that person. And they said I did a great job, but to me it was a disaster, because minutes before the conference I was in tears crying, and afterwards I was traumatized. So that's not supporting my mental health. So I believe what's most important is to support your mental health in your journey. And I feel it's my responsibility to be open about that, to invite people to have conversations so that they feel this is a safe space to talk about it. And I think everyone finds as soon as they start mentioning something that everyone can relax, like, oh, you feel this way too? And then people start connecting. You know, if I'm doing group sessions, this is what people find. You know, I'm not the only one who feels silly on video. I'm not the only one who feels like this. We can apply this to so many different contexts at work. As soon as one person says, do you know what? This makes me really nervous. And it gives other people almost that safe space and almost permission to say, do you know what? Me too. And I love that. And I think that's really helpful for everyone, whether you're in a workplace or running your own business. I think it's essential.
So yeah, go ahead, Judith. Let's see how you do.
No, absolutely agreeable that the reason I'm doing what I'm doing is to work on myself, corporate world, and realise I've been so, and then I saw so many amazing things because I was doing my what then turned out that that's why I shifted. And an interesting client who had a way he could go back into the toxic environment, which had caused him to be and he confided in, and the colleague said, well yeah, I confided in. The more he realised, not only not the only one, but he was part of, nobody was talking about it.
Yeah. We're still getting some crackle on the audio. We're just about getting it. So Helen, building on what we're talking about, so and creating that space and being open and listening. Do you think that leaders and managers are potentially fearful because they're lacking in the skills, the listening skills, and the empathy in order to know what to do next? So that there's a fear of opening up that can of worms, if you like. So it's back to the burying your head in the sand type thing. And what would you say to business leaders out there about how to overcome that, and maybe what they can do to support their employees and just people that they work with generally?
Yeah, well, I think there can be a fear, that sense of if I ask someone who perhaps is displaying signs that things aren't okay, if I ask them if they're okay, there's that sense of what will that mean in terms of the responsibility that I'm then taking on, and what will I be taking on from that person. So that there can be sometimes that sense of fear of what does that mean, but there can also be the perspective of the leaders or managers. They have their own roles to fulfill and their own roles in the business, and for some leaders their focus can be the bottom line. So it's about making mental health a part of every kind of tier in the hierarchy of a business, really, and having that awareness and being able to ask how someone is, not just as a greeting, but if they're displaying signs that perhaps things aren't okay, asking again. It doesn't have to mean you have to have an in-depth conversation there, but what that does is make an acknowledgement to the person concerned that actually you've noticed that things don't seem to be right. You can always make 10-15 minutes aside a bit later in the day, or ask somebody else who perhaps that person might trust to ask them. But it's about having the opportunity to speak and having the opportunity to be heard, and having the confidence to know how to manage that and make that a part of your work. Because as leaders and managers, there is responsibility for the welfare of staff and employees. And actually mental health is not just something that is a tick box exercise. It is something that makes practical, everyday positive, that has positive influences on your business and helps you to retain your staff. And so it works for everyone. And so it's about being aware of how you talk about mental health, the language that you use, being aware of the policies that you have in place regarding absence, regarding return to work. There are practical, positive steps that can be put in place that aren't massive, but actually can make a massive difference to the well-being of staff and the ethos of a company.
Mm. I definitely think it's going to become more important, and I think, you know, there's I don't think we've probably reached the peak yet of you know, how people are going to be affected by this thing, and the hits keep on coming, don't they? It's like one thing after another, and I know certainly from my point of view, I think I've mentioned mentioned it on this before. Certainly during the lockdown period, you know, I found it quite difficult. You know, because we're all gregarious people, we like to be around people. I run working groups. I'm used to being around people and showing off and doing what I do. And of course, that was taken away from it. And really, what saved me, I guess it is saved. It sounds like quite a harsh word, but we did this virtual pub each Friday, a group of us, and it was really something that I look forward to during the week, to know once it came to Friday, I was going to have a few drinks, you know, albeit still in my house and still cocooned in whatever room I was in. But and I think that really, in my view, not just that, networking in general. I think networking, if we just focus on that a minute, can a lot of people go networking with a bit of a facade on. You know, that they won't be their true person. It'll be like the elegant swan. You know, everything looks fine on the surface, but you know, your little legs are going like mad underneath to keep you afloat and keep you moving. And I mean, that's most businesses in my view. And then added to it with all the things that we've been through, then I think, you know, people are going to feel worse, if that's the right word. But I just think people are more open now and more honest about their feelings and what's going on for them. And I certainly know, in terms of the group I'm talking about, it brought us closer together. You know, being able to share, you know, the shitty days we were having, and also, you know, the good days we were having, and then just sort of being showing more empathy to other people as they were opening up about what was going on in their lives and how lockdown particularly was affecting them. So, you know, hopefully the people do have more space, and it is a heightened awareness of, you know, how this whole climate can affect people, and therefore, you know, just listening, talking, being open has got to, you know, help that that journey forward. But I think it needs professionals like you guys, you know, to be helping those people with their confidence, with their anxiety, with whatever's going on for them. So I'll give Judith one last try before we put on the naughty step forever. So what's some advice that you can give, Judith, to people that may be feeling anxious, or may be feeling depressed, or may be struggling at the moment? What are some top tips that you would give them? What should they do?
Number one tip is what you've just said, and that is the hardest thing for people to admit, that they're not coping, and to admit. In terms of managers, perhaps the primary concern at the moment is financial things as well. So who was badly in debt was causing her anxiety, but also made capable of taking action on advice from others as well. Consulted a charity. So, you know, it's now not top of her list. Personally, you're not happy to seek help, or you're not ready to. There's lots of to look at, but I would advise gathering, you know, go and find, or understand more about the process of feeling anxious, or doing all of those things. And simple breathing. I mean, it's my one. I start with all clients. If we are anxious and worried, activated, that causes all sorts. We can take control of it and serene panic attacks. You can if you can take control of your breathing. just start with something simple. And I use that, if I'm doing something, rushing around, trying to do 10 things, and breathe. I need to talk to people. I offer, I'm free, half happy for that. Not to be me saying specific techniques to help them.
Okay, so Serena,
For
same
my
question
sound,
to you. Oh,
apologising for my sound. I have no idea what's going.
that's all right. You're forgiven. But you never get invited back again. You
Good.
come in, you turn up at 10 o'clock and then start at 11, and then you spoil my meetings. It's outrageous. I'm going to need therapy from you after this. So, Serena, back to you. So same sort of question, really. Obviously, you've been on your journey. What supported you, and what recommendations would you give to people out there that maybe in a similar position to you, with the anxiety, with the panic attacks, with the uncertainty? What would you say to them?
I think there's quite a lot to it. I really agree with what Judith was saying about the breath. So I've been meditating for over 20 years, and now I teach meditation for a charity, and it's something very close to my heart. I do feel if you change your state, in particular by working with the breath, you change a lot of your thoughts, in particular anxious thoughts. I just did a video on it today about connecting with your heart, so getting out of your head and into your heart, because you can't really think your way out of anxiety, because anxiety is the problem of overthinking, and we can think and think and think and think and make ourselves worse. So, and often the solutions we tend to go to are things like thinking. I just need to think more about this, and it really makes it worse. So it's about sort of stopping the thinking and doing something healing like meditation. As I said, I've done that a lot, and it really, really helped. For a time, I also saw therapists, which was great. There's a lot of misconceptions about therapy too, that it's all about, your mum and dad or your past, when in reality it's quite straightforward. It's quite straightforward about, what are you experiencing in your mind now, and how do we move forward from this? And I was actually surprised how straightforward the whole process actually was, and how helpful. So I think it's about being open to exploring new ideas, and different things work for different people. There's no one solution for everyone. But for me, what helped was certainly a regular meditation practice that I've done over 20 years, and then a stint of therapy that really helped as well. And then just overall, just being my authentic self, being who I am, and not worrying so much about, everything else. And I think that's important, because in particular, when you get to presentation skills, if you feel you have to be this completely separate person, this professional being, of course, we all need to be professional. But it's also about being true to our values and our personality. So then I think when you do that, you start to support your own mental health as well, because you don't have this imposter syndrome. You don't feel like you're being two people, and it reduces feelings of isolation, because you're just being yourself. And then also, as Helen was saying, communicating and so on, we've all talked about that, and that's important. You gave a fantastic example, Paul, about what helps you. Sometimes it's something so simple, like meeting up with a group of friends on Zoom and having a beer. Sometimes we can think it's so complicated, but it isn't. And just that human connection. So I think for me, the most important thing was also about connection, not just the meditation or the therapy, but connecting with others around me, and communicating, and having a support group of friends who you can just talk to, and knowing that you don't have to understand exactly what someone else is going through. It's just about, we've had a lot of words like empathy and listening going around. That's great. Just listen with empathy. You do not have to have solutions. You don't have to understand it completely. And I found I have just wonderful friends, and I think that's what's really helpful in my life as well. Friends who are supportive, who do listen, and likewise I listen to them. And so then you have this feeling of connection, a little bit what you were describing about meeting with friends on a Friday evening, Paul. So that's what really helped me. But the main thing I think also is not to feel that you're alone in your struggle with this, and that it is okay to talk about it.
Yeah, and it was wine, not beer, and probably too many most often. Helen, so what pops into my head is, you sometimes see these posts on social media, sort of say, my door is always open, and et cetera, et cetera. I guess my view on that is sometimes people that are having some mental health issues, probably aren't going to come and necessarily walk through that door. So I guess sometimes we need to be proactive and reach out. Is there anything in terms of recommendations about how to do that? So, again, given this fear that you're going to make things worse, because my experience is, again, relating it to networking, there were quite a few people that pre-lockdown were very frequent networkers, and then all of a sudden disappeared off the radar for some reason. And it may be that things are absolutely fine, but you never know. And I was trying to encourage my members through the network. So if you think of Tom, Dick, Harry, or Sally, that are missing, maybe reach out to them, maybe sort of make a phone call, maybe drop them a line, and just to check in with them. So have you got any advice on that if people think either friends, family, or people in their network may be suffering? Well, what's the next step for them? Because just having my door open, it'll just be open, no one coming in here. So obviously I don't want to kick their door down, but what's the approach?
Well, it comes down to how well you know people as well. So it's the kind of basis for that is, as Serena said, connection. We are social people or social beings, and actually one of the things with mental health, when we're suffering with mental health issues, is that actually that we can feel like we're the only one. So it can feel very difficult to walk through somebody's door. So actually, if you happen to notice something that just seems a bit different about somebody, and you get a sense that something's not quite right, just ask them, and then ask again. It might be that you've noticed something in how they are conducting themselves generally. It might be something non-verbal. It might be something that they have or haven't done that's just kind of rung a little warning for you, or just made you feel that something's not quite right. But ask them, and that in itself shows that you're interested and that you've noticed. It might be that you say to them, look, I've noticed this. Are you all right? It might be that they're not ready to talk, that they don't want to talk at the moment, but you can say, look, if you need to talk, I'm here, and leave that door open. But it's the noticing, I think, that is a first step, because then somebody is aware that you care, you've shown an interest. If somebody does want to talk, then make sure that you're able to give them some time. So that's important for them and for you. So if you're a manager, if you're a leader in a business, if you can't see somebody there and then, make an arrangement with them to see them perhaps later on in the day when you've got a bit more time, and you can actually sit down and listen to them and give them time where you can focus on what they have to say. And also, when you're having that conversation, listening is so important. Don't try to fix it, because actually people need to have responsibility for themselves, and they need to have a choice. One of the things that you can ask as a leader or a manager is, what do you need at the moment? And let them tell you, and then you can think about what you can provide in terms of support for them, or maybe signpost them on to different organizations who may be able to support them in a way that you can't.
Very nice segue there, Helen. I don't know how you did that, but I was doing a little thing in the background. So these are some sites that people may want to take a look at, because I know from previous discussions that I've had on mental health is, there's a lot of resources out there that, you can actually go anonymously and go and get some stuff that may help you. And I think, it's and another thing as well that I'll share is the Samaritans are a great place to go. Whatever's going on for you, they are a listening ear. I think there's a misconception that they're only interested in people that are suicidal. It's not that. If you're depressed, if you're anxious, if you've got money problems, whatever it is, they're there to support you. So if you don't feel that you can go to your friends and family, and that's often the case, you probably feel embarrassed or conscious about that, even going to your partner or whatever, that there are resources out there. And I think it's interesting, they've got an email as well. If you're too conscious about ringing somebody, you can just sort of like email this a generic email which is going across the screen. I'll put the websites back on there. Let's see if I can do that. Yeah, just so people have got them. So I think the important thing is if you're feeling mentally unstable or feel that you've got a mental health issue. There's nothing wrong with that. I think historically there has been a stigma. You know, I think people are more aware of it now, so don't bottle it up. I think that's probably the worst thing you do. Go and find an outlet to talk to somebody, whether it is family, whether it's an anonymous person, whether it's a colleague, whoever it is. I think you've just got to keep that dialogue going and that conversation happening. And like I say, there's organisations out there that can help with the sites that I'm sharing. There are other mental health charities that I'm sure are supportive, and I'm sure are quite overwhelmed at the moment. But I think that, you know, don't lose sight of the power of friends and family and your colleagues. Really, you know, it's been a useful resource certainly for me over the last couple of years, and sort of kept me sane. So we'll wrap it up there. So thank you for your time today. If anybody's listened to this again on the replay, if you want to put some comments in the chat, we'll get back to you with any concerns that you've got. And yeah, thanks again. We'll end it there.